Hey, what's up, guys? Let me shut that fan off so you can hear me. Doing a cooking video. I'm actually I just got home from work. It is, let's see, it's 12:30. I have to go back to work in a little bit, but I'm starting a beef stew. And the beginning of this video, of course, I'll list all the stuff you're going to need for this, but I already started. I wanted to start from scratch, but it just dawned on me now I should probably make a video on it. People tend to like the cooking videos, so. Anyway, all I have here is I have a pot on high heat. I put a little pat of butter in there and a little bit of olive oil. I'm using this stuff. Alright, I took my cubed beef, alright, put it in a bag, big Ziploc bag, and put some flour in there. Before, when you take your beef out of the package, you want to pat it dry, okay? You don't want all the blood and juice on it. So pat it dry, put it in a bag with some flour, mix it up, mix it all around. Alright, take some tongs or something, shake off all the extra flour, and drop all those cubes right in your pot. Alright, so I'm going to put all the rest of the meat in here right now. What you want to do is you just want to get some color on the meat. We're not cooking it all the way through. We're just browning it, you know, sauteing the outside. Get the rest of the meat in there. Now this is my my first actual cooked meal in the new house. I've been living on some processed food, you know, like frozen stuff and lunch meat. Not that lunch meat's processed, but you know what I mean. I haven't actually cooked a big dinner yet. So this is going to be my first one. And by the way, this is just one package of, you know, cubed beef. Alright, so make sure your bag's empty, there's no more meat in there, and then throw that out because you don't want to reuse that flour for anything. Okay, so I got the pot here. Let me show you, just browning that up a little bit. I'm actually going to throw a little bit more olive oil in there. Seems a little dry. Alright. Now once that's browned up, I'll get back to you and we'll continue from there. Alright guys, so the meat's all browned up. What I want to do is turn the flame down to a kind of a medium-low heat. Take a look at that real quick. Just get some color on it. You know, not trying to cook it, the whole thing. Alright, just brown it up a little bit. Mix it up. Alright, let that sit on medium-low heat. Alright guys, so what I have here is my meat. I'm just turning the heat down and it's just on a medium-low heat. I have 4 cans of beef broth. Alright, just no name, doesn't matter what kind it is. Just don't get the low sodium unless of course you have, you know, high blood pressure or something. But anyway, 4 cans right in there. Now this is just how I make it. There's lots of different ways you can make beef stew. It's pretty cool because it's pretty versatile. You know, if there's something you don't like, just don't put it in there. If there's something you really like, you can throw it in there as well. There, 4 cans of beef broth. Then I have 1 can of stewed tomatoes. Alright. Kind of mix that all around. Alright, and just let that do its thing. I'm going to find a top and put a top on there as well in a second. Alright, so now that we did that, I have my frying pan with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter. Okay, now what I'm going to do is while all the juices in the meat are cooking, I'm going to go over and, I don't have heat on this yet, I'm going to go chop an onion and some potatoes. And normally you'd put celery in there, but to be honest, I just totally forgot celery. And I have some baby carrots, so let's go do that. Alright, so what I have here is some potatoes. These are just red skin potatoes. I have a large yellow onion, and I have a bag of baby carrots. Now the baby carrots I'm not doing anything to. I'm just going to break this bag open and throw them in whole because they are small. If you have regular carrots, just obviously chop it up. There's not an exact science to this. I mean, it's stew. It's pretty rustic. You're just chopping it up into smaller pieces so it cooks evenly, and so that when you eat it, they're even bites. Doesn't have to be pretty. So let's take the onion off here for a second. Knife of choice today, of course, the Cold Steel K3, or excuse me, K5. I've used this before many times in the past. This is my go-to kitchen knife. Nice and thin stock and razor sharp. So a little awkward here behind the camera, but I'm gonna just roughly chop these. Not doing anything crazy with this. Again, it's just a stew. Now my meat I never chopped up fine, so there are kind of big chunks in it. So I'm going to leave some of the stuff a little bit chunky. Now, a quick little note though, what I did was, before I turn the camera on, let me grab it here. If you want to clean your potatoes off, just grab a rag and just get it kind of damp and just scrub your potatoes to get all the dirt and stuff off. Just wanted to mention that. Obviously you don't want to be eating any dirt. Like I said, kind of larger chunks here because the meat's large. Of course the meat's going to fall apart a little bit once it cooks up. And there should be plenty enough potatoes. Of course you can make this, you can make a large amount of stew, or you can make a smaller amount. It only makes sense if you're going to make stew to just make a bunch of it and then save some for leftovers, and if you're not going to eat it, give it away to family and friends and stuff. But it's really easy to make. It's not very expensive at all. And of course this time of year it's pretty hearty. It's nice when it's getting colder out and stuff to have something you know, substantial for dinner like this. Alright, this has a little bit of a thing there, so I'll cut that off. Alright, almost done here. Okay, so there's my potatoes. I'm going to shut the camera off for a second and then we'll cut the onion. Alright, so I put the potatoes in a little container here. Gotta love those old Chinese food takeout containers. You can reuse them. These go off to the side. These don't go into our pot until later on. What I want to do now is prep your onion, and most of the time celery, but again I forgot to get celery, so we're not going to have it. But normally you would just cut up your celery in small pieces, and the same with your onion. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is half this. Okay, just cut off the end here. Get all the skin off. Cut more of that end off here. There we go. Okay. Alright, so I just have one large onion here. Of course, depending on how much stew you're going to make, depends on how much you could actually want to prep. But again, I'm just going to kind of chunk this. I'm not doing anything crazy with it. Make sure you get all the skin off. You don't want to bite that later. Again, just a rustic type dish here. You don't have to get fancy. You don't have to get creative at all. Of course, when you're in the kitchen, most important thing is to have a nice sharp knife, because you're not going to slip off. I mean, obviously you want to be careful, and I'm not a professional chef. I mean, I know you're supposed to kind of tuck your fingers in and then kind of guide on the blade there, and you know, I never cut myself because I'm careful, so that's all you really have to worry about here. Just cutting again more of that stem off. That's going to be a little tough. All right, so just kind of a chunky cut here. I'm going to break them up a little bit too once I you know, put it in the pot. And that should be it. So there's the onions. Now what I want to do is I'm going to bring this over to the frying pan and kind of sweat them out. Not caramelizing them, not sauteing them, you're just kind of making them translucent. So let's go do that right now. Alright, so I got a little olive oil and a little butter in the pan here. Just melting that down. Pan's on medium-high heat. Like I said, we don't want to saute the onions. We just kind of want to sweat them out a little bit. Alright. So, here we go. Alright, now usually I like to add a little bit of pepper at this point. I don't salt anything to the very end because the beef broth is pretty salty by nature. And like I said, especially if you don't get the low sodium one. So I just hit the onions with a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. Not much, don't go crazy. You know, you can always season at the end. They tell you, you can only put stuff in, you can't take stuff out. So you don't want to go crazy with any kind of spices when you're cooking. Alright, so that's it. I'm just going to start sauteing these onions up. Well, not sauteing, sorry. Just sweating them out, making them soft. Getting just a little bit of color on them, but not actually sauteing them. And then I'm going to go to the next step. So here we go. Alright guys, it's been, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. You can see the onions are starting to get just a little bit of color. So what you want to do is, at this point, I'm just going to turn the heat down. I want to make sure it's not too high there. Because again, I'm not trying to caramelize the onions. I'm just trying to sweat them out, get a little bit of color on them. I mean, just barely any color. Just trying to, again, make them translucent and soft. Alright, so that's good. In the meanwhile, I put a pot lid on my pot so I can keep the heat in for the meat and the broth and tomatoes to kind of do their thing. Alright. I have to give a little shout out to Gorgor1981 for his cooking videos. And of course, you got to be sipping on something. I happen to not drink, so I got a Coca-Cola here. For some reason, everything tastes better out of a bottle. So, I don't normally buy this because they're ridiculously expensive. I mean, you can just get a case of 12 cans, a lot cheaper. But yeah, something about drinking out of glass makes everything taste better. So anyway, shout out to Steve because he just does awesome cooking videos, and he really inspired me to start doing cooking stuff because I do like to cook. I don't do videos on cooking often, but if you live alone, you got to know how to cook. You can't just be eating McDonald's every day, and frozen crap. So anyway, onions are they're done. So they get nice and soft. All right. So let me turn my camera up here a little bit. Alright, so put your onions in. First, let me shut that off. Alright. Put it over here for now. Mix that up. I'm going to show you guys my little secret of what I do to kind of kick it up a notch a little bit. Not to steal that from Emerald or anything, but hold on a second there. Alright, here's my beef stew, my little secret that I use, which really helps out with flavor. And it's some V8. Now you do have to use low sodium because you have all the salt in the broth. Alright, so I buy this. I mean, I don't like to drink V8 just, as a drink. I really don't like it that much. But it's good to have in the house. I mean, I don't know, it's healthy for you, so you gotta have something. But when I make stew, this is definitely a nice addition. I don't measure much of anything, but I want to use, I would say that's probably a cup worth, maybe a cup and a half. Actually, let's put just a little bit more in there. So I'm going to say 2 cups of V8 and mix that in a little bit. And again, you have all these vegetables cooking in there with your meat and your broth. So adding the V8 just gives you all the flavors of the vegetables, and I don't know, it just brings everything together. It has a really good flavor. So at this point, we're just going to put our lid back on. Alright, so now I have everything going. I want to cook this for 45 minutes. okay, before I add the potatoes and the carrots here. So what I use is I actually have a timer, a kitchen timer that I got from CountyCom. Now I never did a review on this because it's, to be honest, not all that exciting, but I do use it all the time. And it's got a clock, it's got a count up kind of timer, and it has a regular, you know, timer that counts down. So, and this is made by Marathon, you know, same as a lot of the watches and a lot of the other gear that they sell. It's really great. It's got a little clip. You can clip it on your pocket if you wanted to, but I use it on the refrigerator. There's a magnet on the back. So 45 minutes, just gonna hit start, and I'm gonna stick this in my refrigerator, and it'll start beeping when it's ready. And at that point, I'll turn the camera back on and show you the next step. Alright, there's like 20 seconds left, so that's it. Alright, so now, it's been 45 minutes, cooking nicely. In fact, I have the heat on just a little bit too high, so let's turn it down just a little. Alright, so now what we want to do, just mix this up. Man, it already smells great. Okay, we're going to want to add the potatoes at this point. Okay, just be careful, put them in there. Obviously everything's hot. You don't want to splash anything. Alright, mix those up. Now for this recipe you could add more meat. I only bought one package, but obviously you probably want more meat in there. And then of course your carrots. Now I already put my regular knife away, so I'll use my EDC today. Rat 1. Bust that open. And the carrots go right in. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put another bag in. I happen to have 2 bags. But this is a lot of stew here. I'll do another one. Alright, so 2 little snack-sized bags of these baby carrots. Alright, so everything's in there. Just gotta let it do its thing. It's gonna take a while to cook. I mean, the longer the better. What I'm gonna do is after the initial 45 minutes and you put in your carrots and your potatoes, I'm gonna cook this for an hour and a half and check on it. And if everything's nice and tender and ready to go, I'm going to thicken it at that point. But let's set our timer for an hour and a half. Alright, 1 hour. $30. Alright, so put that back on the refrigerator and put our lid back on. Now the heat's down a little bit to a medium-low. That's it. So I'll be back with you in an hour and a half, and we'll see if we have to thicken it up or not. Most of the time I do have to thicken it up because I end up using a lot of liquid, but we'll see. I'll see you in an hour and a half. Alright guys, so what I did was when I last saw you here, I actually had to shut everything off because I had to go back to work for a little bit. And then when I got home, turned it back on, and of course I cooked it until the timer buzzed. And now it's time to check on it. Let's take a look. Now I turned the heat back up, so you can see it's actually bubbling a little bit, because now I want to thicken it. It's got that nice rich consistency. Most important thing here is check the potatoes. Potatoes are fork tender, okay, or if they just kind of mush, then they're all ready. Alright, and of course the most important thing too is your meat. Make sure your meat's not tough. It should be nice and tender, kind of falling apart, so it's not going to be chewy when you eat it. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to thicken this up, the sauce a little bit. Now the sauce right now, it's not really thin, but I do want it a little bit thicker than what it is right now. So it's a really easy process. All you got to do is take a container. I'm just using a measuring cup here. We're going to put in a little bit of water. Don't need much, just a little water. Alright, I'm going to grab myself a whisk. Actually, I'm going to grab a spoon instead. The whisk is too big for what I'm doing. Alright, I just have some all-purpose flour here. This is a pretty easy way to thicken any kind of thing, you know, any kind of sauce. But there's a million different ways you can go about thickening this, but this is just the easiest way. Alright, so I got my water, got my flour. Mix that up. Grab some more flour. Mix it up so you get kind of like a thick slurry. But it's really important to make sure you get all the lumps out. You don't want any lumps of flour. And the reason we're doing this instead of putting flour directly in there is for the same reason. You don't want any lumps. And if you actually are eating this later and you get a big mouthful of dry flour, it's going to be pretty nasty. So mix that up really well. Okay, it almost just looks like milk. And what we want to do is pour in a little bit. Just a little at a time. You don't need much. But it's very important. You have to have a full boil in order to do this. Otherwise, it's not going to get to its thickest point. Alright, then just mix it in. And like I said, once you get it to a boiling point, then you turn the heat back down a little bit and you let it do its thing. And it's going to thicken up on you. Now, of course, from this point on, if it's not thick enough, you know, again, a good rule of thumb is to always go a little at a time. You can always add more later, but you cannot take something out once it goes in. Same thing, like I said before, with seasoning. Don't hit it with a bunch of salt and pepper to start off with, because it might, you know, end up being too much. So I'm going to let this come back up to a boil, and I'll check the consistency. And if I think it's good, I'm done. If it's still not, you know, as thick as I want, then I'll just add a little more. So that's pretty much it. And I'll check it with you in a minute after I serve it. Alright, so we're finally done. Got some in a bowl here. It is just really, really hot right now, so just want to give you a little view of it though. Beef stew. Very easy to make. You know, don't be intimidated by it if you don't cook normally. I mean, it's, you know, if you happen to like that kind of thing, make it at home. You can make a huge pot like that pretty cheap. Basically, you're just buying the fresh vegetables. The meat's the most expensive thing, and even then, cubed beef is not, it's not that much at all. So, you know, feeds a lot of people. It's pretty hearty. You know, it starts to get cold out and stuff. It's just a great wintertime and even fall dinner. So I'm going to give it a little taste test here. But it is very hot, so I got to blow on it here. It's really good. And so there we go. Try a piece of meat here. Now the meat's falling apart. Take my tongs here, I'll show you. I mean, that's what you want. You want your meat to just kind of fall apart when you squeeze it like that. Alright, that's how you know it's done. So let's try a little bit of that. That's some good stuff. Alright, so there you go. Beef stew. It's pretty simple. You know, try it at home. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully this video didn't turn out to be too long. Obviously, it's going to be cut up into a lot of smaller parts. But anyway, thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.